When you hear the word genetic alteration, you probably think it's a term that only came about in modern day. But according to Harvard University, we've been messing around with genetics for over 30,000 years. I've been around tree fruit for all my life, and during that time I've become very interested in GMOs. I'm very excited to share with you what I've been learning via research in preparation for this speech. During this presentation, I will give you a clear definition and overview of what exactly a GMO is, as well as a brief history on the origins of the genetically modified organisms. I'll also discuss different GMOs that can be found commonly in the US, as well as the exact percentages of the crop that are GMOs. Before we had genetically modified organisms, we had something called artificial selection. Artificial selection is when you take an organism and breed it with other organisms to get specific traits that you want and get rid of specific traits that you don't want. We first did this with wolves. We took some wolves, we bred out some traits that made them harder to domesticate, and then we bred in traits that made them more docile and obedient. Over time, we kept doing this over the centuries and the millennia until we have our modern day dogs. We also did this with corn. Corn started out as a small grass-like plant. Over time, we bred it to be taller, more vibrant, and give us more food until we have our modern day super crop corn. But the true GMOs did not start until 1973, when two scientists named Herbert Boyer and Stanley Gohin took one piece of bacteria, took some genes from it, and then put it into another piece of bacteria, and then noticed that that piece of bacteria they put the gene in took over some of the traits of the other bacteria. Other scientists soon followed suit, taking foreign DNA and putting it into mice embryos, as well as doing the same thing that the Herbert and Stanley did, and messing around bacteria to create bacteria that could actually clean up oil spills. But the way GMOs actually work is it works like the copy-paste function on a keyboard. They take one organism, copy a gene that they want in another organism, and then paste it by cutting open the organism and then inserting the gene inside. Then they isolate the gene and test it to see if it works. If it's a plant, they plant a whole crop of it and then test it for about a year, see if it's safe, see if it functions, and if so, then it's ready to be sold. Now that we know what GMOs are, it's time to go over some of the biggest GMO crops. The two biggest crops we have here in the US that are GMOs are soybeans and corn. The modifications that are in soybeans are made to make the farmer's life easier. They're pesticide resistance and herbicide resistance. These two things make farmers' lives easier as they no longer need to worry too much about pests, which means less spray, which means less harm on the environment, as well as less herbicides since it's more resistant to weeds, giving them a wider selection of herbicides to use. For corn, it is called Bt corn, and it's called this because the Bt bacteria has a gene that produces a lethal protein, but it's only lethal to a specific pest called the corn borer. All other mammals and humans have no ill effects from taking this protein in. Both these crops comprise a major part of US agriculture, but what's the exact percentage? Well, according to the FDA, in 2018, soybeans took up 94% of the crop were GMOs. 92% of corn were GMOs. Another report in 2013 showed two other crops. Canola was 95% GMO, and sugar beets were 99.9% GMO. Knowing that so many GMOs are in our crops, you're probably wondering if they're safe. Well, according to the FDA, they are safe, as they have to go through an extensive testing process. They need to be tested for several years to see if they're perfectly safe, and even when they are being tested, they have to have a label slapped on it before it can hit the shelves. I've only found one case where there's any negative reaction from a GMO, and that was from a soybean. This case comes from livestorm.com, and it comes from a soybean that had some nut genes put into it. This caused an allergic reaction in some people that were allergic to nuts. In conclusion, GMOs are a massive part of our ag industry, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. In this presentation, we've gone over what GMOs are, the history of GMOs, some of the crops that are GMOs, and the percentages of the crop that are GMOs. If you're still worried about consuming genetically modified products, my recommendation would be to always look at the labels and stay up to date on the latest research. Thank you.